Good morning from South Florida. This is Dan. A lot of you have seen my forum name, Mk4 car. Had a motorcycle, used to like NASCAR. That was the personalized tag that I could get. So we're looking at my Factory 5 Mark IV in its current build status. I didn't do a build thread. I received the kit in June of 2018, and I didn't think I could post enough content on a regular basis to be an active build thread. So I'm at a stage now where I think I just want to share what I've done, and I'm opening the floor for anybody who wants to critique me, give me advice, tell me a better way to do things, or if I've done something okay, please use it. Got a 2-car garage, and have the body up on stilts on wheels. Put down this wood as runners so that it doesn't tear up the wheels. And I built a little shelf in here so that I can keep the door panel and the trunk. I got the plans off the forum, so whoever did those, thank you so much. So today is September 25th, 2020. I'm guessing I'm about halfway through the build. I've got a Blueprint 302 with a T5, and I opted for the Holley Sniper. So here's where we are right now. I've got the car up on blocks so I can get under it and also work in a good height. So my suspension's done. I've got my power steering from Factory 5. I decided to use the corrugated radiator hoses. Had pretty good success with that. I found a 90-degree bend in a hose that I had in the garage, so I used that on the water outlet. Came underneath with the corrugated. Did my own little clamp down there, and just wrapped one of the hoses around the metal hose to clamp it to the X-frame. I appreciate the ingenuity of the Breeze upper radiator bracket. Tried to make one of my own. I think I was pretty successful. Just use a piano hinge that I got from Home Depot. Give you a good look at the radiator down here, being held on by zip ties so far. It was suggested to run on the forum to, I believe it was Paul Edward B, who said to run the cables under the radiator, so I'm going to be doing that. I found this Overflow tank on the internet. It's pretty inexpensive, and I'm running. Actually, I'm using a fuel line as the overflow line. It was handy. The brake lines, while I'm standing here, the brake lines, I used the Factory 5 included lines and made all the connections that way. Ran it across the 4-inch tube on the bottom. Some of the stuff is probably not as clean as it should be because I've been working on it and sweating on it. So while staying in the engine compartment here, I've got the extension. Let me see if I can get it better down here. I've got the extension for the oil pressure sender on the block. I have an oil pressure sender and an oil temperature sender. You can see that wire protector there. That's for most of the sending units. The water temperature goes back around behind the distributor, and I have that right there on the water neck. Created a clamp Back here bolted to the intake manifold to hold it in place. Otherwise it's running just along. Oh, there's a clamp there too. Forgot about that one. I didn't do it on the other side, that's why I forgot about it. For the throttle cable, let me come back out here a little bit. Throttle cable comes out of the firewall, or the front foot box, and goes around, and I have the insulated clamps. Let's see if I can get a picture of that. I have a couple of insulated clamps. There we go. Holding that in place before it makes its next turn over here. And I use the bracket that came with the Holley Sniper. I just modified it a little bit. I put a flat piece of aluminum there, because on the back side when you put the cable through there, there's nothing to grab, so I just bolted a flat piece of aluminum there. And one thing interesting I did with the bracket here, which is the factory bracket, I drilled, actually I took out the pivot ball and I drilled all the way through so that I could put the cable in much further than it would have gone otherwise. And I used a second bolt to secure the cable. There's also the bolt underneath, but and I used blue Loctite on both of those. So I think I have a pretty good secure connection there. Somebody mentioned they want to see my wire routing. It's pretty standard. It's the Ron Francis harness coming through the firewall. The first one over here, that one is the sending unit. This one I believe goes to the alternator. Down here we have the cable that goes to the back of the car, and that one over there goes down to the starter. On my fuel lines, I'm using 3/8 fuel line, fuel injection line that came with the Holley Sniper fuel pump kit, and I run that along the passenger side 4-inch tube underneath. I give you a little better look at where that goes. I have that bolted to the passenger side foot box. It goes underneath. I don't know if I'm going to get a good picture here or not, but we'll try it. And that's the hose running along the underside of the car. So this is the cables running along the upper part of the intake manifold. And down here is where I have the, let's see if I can get a better picture of that, battery cable, starter cable. I have my O2 sensor inside that J-pipe. I did get the BBK headers, and I found these Moroso, well, they're Moroso labeled, but they're for a Ford 302. These wire looms, helping to keep the wires in place. They were just kind of freestyle when I first got them. So I have them tied up so it's nice and smooth and clean. Let's see, what else can we talk about? When I first did my suspension, I wasn't real happy with the way that it came and that the picture looked like in the manual. So I tried to get it straight visually, and I realized that, I don't know if you probably can't see this, but the tire's a little cocked off to the side. So I know I have to do a few more adjustments for that. Last thing I'm going to talk about here on the engine compartment is the clutch cable. I followed the advice of Papa on the forum, Dave, and got this is a BBK clutch adjuster, and I created a bracket, L-shaped bracket bolted to the underside of that 3/4 tube, and I use a insulated clamp to run the cable. It keeps it away from everything. Just so you can see, it doesn't come anywhere near the header. And I did another one. right there off of the motor mount with a cable. And that goes directly into the front of the bell housing down there. And I have my clutch cable bolted on here. It's been a little tricky getting it to the right length and adjusted, but I think it's all right. Over here I have my clutch quadrant, I think it's called. And the clutch pedal is a little further ahead of the brake pedal, but I'm okay with that. Obviously my fuse panel, and I'm having a little trouble bleeding the brakes. These aren't connected right now because I may want to move things over. I'm having trouble bleeding the rear brakes, and they're the kind that have the screw-in piston. The front brakes are tight, they're fine, but the rear ones I'm not able to get a good solid pedal on them. And I know that because when I have the tires off and I had it jacked up and I hit the brakes, I could still spin the rear axle. So that's been a little bit of a challenge so far. One question I'll pose out there is, I don't know if that's the steering rod or steering column is extended too far into the cockpit. With the steering boss on there, that just leaves a lot of space from here to here. That's exposed rod, and I'm not sure what to do with that, so I'm going to probably be posting that as a forum question. I have the wiring coming through the firewall. I wired the sniper fuel pump into the inertia switch, the negative, the ground. So that's what that's going to work with. And I believe I have to cut something in the fuse panel. Alright, so over here, this is the cable that you see here is the battery cable coming directly from the battery in the back all the way to the front. Down here on the driver's side, I'm running the rear cable harness, and I have the wire, the insulated clamps all the way through. The blue wires are the fuel pump wires for the Holley Sniper fuel pump. I had to buy, this is my T5, I had to buy a speedometer sending unit, and I plugged that in to the cable that's coming off of the rear harness cable. And let's see, what else did I do? I did do the Mk4 drive shaft safety loop. It's nice and solid. I can move it, but not much, and I assume that's better than nothing. I did my own version of the emergency brake cable modification. So what I did was I used the bracket that Factory 5 had right here, and I made an L bracket. I don't know if you can see that too well, but I did an L bracket, and I cut it there about halfway down so that it's just the vertical part, not the L part. And I bolted two garage door pulleys to that. I used the original setup under that bracket there. So I didn't do the modification completely, but what I did was I had to cut, because I went over the 4-inch tube, I had to cut the cables, and then I used cable swage, I guess, clamps, and I did buy the tool to properly crimp them, and it's really, really tight, and then it does definitely go right into the bracket that Factory 5 provides there. So it's actually, the brake is currently set, and I'm using those two wheels. I also I made an elongated, sorry for the blurry there, I made an elongated bracket, the L bracket, so I could get a little further below the rear attachment bracket. So that vertical bracket you see with the 3 holes where the bolt is in the bottom hole, I extended that one probably by about 1 inch, so that's my own fabrication. Let me come on the other side and show you what I did to the other parts of the emergency brake. well, let's call it a parking brake, because when you're driving and you're strapped in, I know that you can't reach it. All right, so what I did, first thing I did was I bent that rod so it won't come out ever. I also used a bolt for that instead of a pin, and I did reverse the way the manual says to put those in. I put the bolt heads on the inside and the nuts on the outside. Also, for some reason it fit better this way. I went above, let me see if I can get that, above that bracket instead of using that slot on that bracket. And again, it seems to work fine. I only get about 3 clicks, but it's not hitting anything and it's doing its job. Okay, so moving around, that's the clutch cover, or clutch cable cover. All right, I opted for the FF Metals rear battery box, drop box. And I know it's made for an Optima battery, but I got the Walmart battery. And it's real tight, and the only way that it will fit in there is if you cut off the mounting plastic ledges at the bottom of the battery. It slides right in after that. But anybody who has a question about will the battery fit, you do have to cut the extraneous plastic, and it does fit. I also did the Russ Thompson drop trunk. That was a really fun project. It went together pretty easily. Had to cut out that much to make it work, but I think it came out perfect. I'm using the Factory 5 remote battery terminals. They might be a little close, but based on what's behind them, I think this is the best location for them. A little bit dirty back there, sorry for the look. And I have the, I guess the trunk light, license plate light, have that wrapped up over here. And what else do we got to go here? Oh yeah, I have my Sniper fuel pump. I'm gonna see if I can get under the car and show this. Give me a second, I'm gonna get down here. So what I did was I just took a piece of, I'm sorry, also I got the 4-link suspension. So what I did was I took a bracket, it's like a C-channel bracket, and I bolted it up to the frame above, and I bolted the inline fuel pump, filter right up to it, and it's wired directly. Coming back up. The other thing I didn't mention about the battery box is I have the black and yellow. Yellow represents red. That's the wire directly to the Sniper, because the Sniper needs to go directly to the battery. So when I hook that up, that's where that's going to go. So that's my video. I got the dashboard over here. I'm going to put the vinyl on. I have all my gauges. What I bought was Autometer. I bought it directly from Autometer. But the black gauges with the orange dial. And those probably going to be in sometime this weekend, I hope. So anyway, if anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, I am open to everything. If you, I've posted a couple things about the rear brakes, and before I do my first start, I do have to jack up the back and get those brakes right. I did get the pump, not the pump, the like the sprayer. Let me come over here. Got this sprayer set up that I use for bleeding the brakes. I tried that. and I mean, it seemed to put good pressure in there, but it did not eliminate all the air from the rear brake. So I'm just kind of pulling my hair out over here for that. Anyway, thanks for your time. Look forward to hearing back from anybody.